Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum and I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction Company taking a look at a double-barreled shotgun. Of course, if we're looking at a double-barreled shotgun on this channel, it's probably got something a little bit weird and unusual to it. And you're right, in this case, this is a Holland and Holland manufactured Paradox gun. And the Paradox was an idea, an invention, patented by George Fosbery, or rather Lieutenant Colonel George Fosbery, of the British Army. Fosbery was a prolific inventor, came up with a number of firearms inventions, probably best known for his Webley-Fosbery sort of semi-automatic, maybe more accurately termed a self-cocking revolver, that has gotten a bunch of notice. People are familiar with them today, although it's certainly not his most commercially successful design. He also came up with an exploding bullet used for helping to determine range. And in fact, while he was stationed in India, where he actually was for quite some time, he was awarded the Victoria Cross for actions at a place called Umbela Pass in 1863, where interestingly, some of his troops were using his exploding bullets, making him the only Victoria Cross recipient to have been awarded the recognition for a battle in which their own weaponry was being used. Being the inventive sort of person that he was, while Fosbery was stationed in India for the army, he decided that there was really a need for a new sort of gun, something that didn't exist in the current market that he thought ought to. Namely, a sporting gun that could be used for both ball and birdshot. Because there were a lot of British officers in India who would like to go hunting, and they were hunting in environments where you never necessarily knew if you were going to want to take a shot at flying birds or a shot at a mammal on the ground. Anything from relatively non-dangerous herbivores up to a freaking tiger. And rather than trek around with two different guns, one for each task, Fosbery got the idea that he could figure out a way to make one gun do both jobs, and that is the Paradox. Name kind of makes sense in that context, right? Let me show you what he did. All right, so it's actually kind of an idea that we see today as pretty obvious, as many really good inventions are. The concept was to add just a little bit of rifling to the end of the barrels. The idea being, if you were firing shot, there wouldn't be enough rifling to really substantially disrupt your shot pattern. Sure, it wouldn't help it, it would hurt it a little bit, but your shot pattern would still be plenty good enough, unless you were making really hard shots. And that bit of rifling would add enough spin to a ball or slug projectile to make it substantially more accurate than just a plain smoothbore. And as a result, you get a gun that is, call it a jack of all trades, master of none. It's one gun that you can carry that can do both roles adequately, quite adequately really, even if it's not quite as good as a dedicated gun for either role. Fosbery was a guy who knew good gun manufacture for sure, and so he licensed the rights to this Paradox rifled choke invention to no less than Holland and Holland of London. This particular one is chambered for 2.5-inch 12-gauge shells and is very nicely manufactured, as one would expect of Holland and Holland. Really fine checkering on the grip. Of course, 2 triggers, naturally. There is a manual safety on it. When it says safe, of course it is safe. Happily, this does not automatically engage like some of today's more lawyer-influenced designs. Lever to break the action open, and then, in keeping with its dual role, this has 2 different sets of sights. If you're firing shot, you leave both of these flush, and so they don't interrupt your picture, and you just have a bead sight. If you are firing slugs or single projectiles, well, then you have your option of a 50-yard or a 100-yard express sight to use. So you can flip up the appropriate one and get a more precise sight picture with that vertical center line. You put the bead on top of it, and away you go. I have to admit, I've never been a huge aficionado of double-barreled sporting guns. I understand the artistry, it's not really my thing. However, when you add some cool stuff to them, like the history associated with someone like Fosbery and the the cool inventive idea of the rifled choke. I think that makes for a very interesting gun. So if you'd like to have something like this yourself, in fact, if you'd like to have this very one yourself, it is, of course, coming up for sale here at Rock Island. If you take a look at the description text below, you'll find a link to ForgottenWeapons.com, and from there you can click on over to Rock Island's catalog page on this Holland and Holland Paradox. You can take a look at their pictures and description. They've got some more of the measurements that go into the science of fitting custom sporting shotguns. Anyway, they also have their price estimate and their whole online bidding system over in their catalog. So take a look, and thanks for watching.